Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining for this webinar. I'm very pleased to be with two great people for this webinar presentation, with Charles Pommel and Laurent Simonin that I will quickly introduce later on. So we are a lot today because you are more than 450 people registered for this webinar, so it's great. Thank you for your registration, and we hope you're gonna enjoy it. So I'm Guillaume Boisgontier. I'm a product manager at Kerlink since 3 years now, working mainly on innovative products and solutions, notably on the geolocation solution, and that's why I'm going to present to you today our Wanesy Wave product. And I'm also with Laurent Simonin, who is the Chief Executive Officer from Smart Traffic, and also Charles Pommel from Microchair, which is the Chief Product Officer. So they will present themselves later on when it's their time to speak. So today, I'm going to firstly give you some geolocation market inputs, and then introduce Wanesy Wave products. I'll let then the floor to Laurent, who will speak about in-store analytics, and then to Charles, who is going to speak about universal contact tracing. The presentation is going to stay for 30-40 minutes, and then we'll switch to questions. So don't hesitate already to ask questions. We'll take them at the end of the presentation. So first, some geolocation figures. So you may know that geolocation is a critical thing in IoT, meaning that some analysts are mentioning that on top of all the billions of IoT devices that will be deployed up to 2020 in the market, 60% will include geodata. It means that those devices will be able to track them, okay, to identify their position. And on top of those billions of data, 30% of them will need geodata. It means that the existence of the device by itself is linked to the fact that we're capable to track it or not. That leads us to the second figure that is quite important, is that we can say that around 50% of IoT use cases are requiring geolocation to work. It's notably true in several markets, such as logistics, security, retail, industry, or facility management. So we'll see later on two of those verticals explained by Laurent and Charles, retail by Laurent and facility management by Charles. One example I like to explain when we're talking about geolocation, it's like the ancestor of geolocation is the RFID technology, because today, even in 2016, there was already a lot of RFID tags existing on the market, like more than 9 billion. And despite the range limitations, range is quite short for RFID, the emergence of the technology was critically due to the cheap price it was. When we're talking about geolocation, we can split that typically into three use cases, like geotargeting, zoning, or geofencing. Geotargeting is the capability to know the position of a device. I want to know exactly where my asset is. Okay, it can be good to monitor the usage of assets. Okay. Second use case of family is zoning or beaconing. I want to know in that area how many assets are existing, how many people are entering in my shop, leaving my shop. And last point is the geofencing, where you want to be informed if someone or something enter or leave a specific area. If that happens, then you can send an alert message, and it's mainly due for escape prevention, alerting, or security zones. Some indoor technologies comparison here. So it's a table summarizing 4 technologies, but it exists a lot of different indoor technology. I've talked a little bit about RFID, but we can also know Wi-Fi, BLE for Bluetooth Low Energy, or ultra wideband. Okay, so those different technologies are depending on the type of use case you're looking for. If you need a real critical accuracy, if you're looking really for a cheap or expensive solution, depending on the accuracy you're looking for, but also regarding the need of power supply or the battery lifetime. Okay, so at Kerlink, we have a long experience with geolocation. We already have been working on different products since a lot of years. Some of our older products was already doing geolocation. A product called the WeirTrack. It was mainly to do some fleet management. And then we move ahead with the IoT era, where we have started to provide a Wanesy geolocation platform, which is an outdoor geolocation solution to track devices thanks to the LoRaWAN network. And then we move to the indoor geolocation market with the new product that I'm going to present you today, which is called the Wanesy Wave. And that product is combining two of those technologies we are seeing here, which is the Wi-Fi and the BLE. So our product here, I have some piece with me, the Wanesy Wave. So it's a Wi-Fi and BLE anchor that can be put within a LoRaWAN network. So it has the LoRaWAN backhauling, and then it's capable to track, count, and make some zoning regarding assets. Those assets can be either Wi-Fi assets, like phone, for example, if I want to track Wi-Fi devices, but it can also be Bluetooth devices, like any BLE tag you can find on the market. Okay, so that product combines those two technologies, meaning it can either do Wi-Fi tracking, Bluetooth tracking, or both at the same time. So, for example, if you're in an era where you want to track the path of people and the fact that they are transporting any objects, then you can combine those two elements to notice that that person is transporting with him several assets. So what that device is supposed to be, so it's an anchor that tracks assets, and it's supposed to answer several questions, such as how many people or assets are in that specific area, how many people or assets have been in that area for at least 10 minutes or within the last hour, what's the flow of visitors or customers in my building, shop, or art gallery, how can I prevent my staff to move my assets outside a given area, which are the new assets within the last 5 minutes, so you're just detecting the new entry and then sending that information back. What are my assets in my building, and in which area is that specific asset? How does it work? So I've mentioned we have devices that can be smartphones or BLE tag that are communicating with the anchor, with the Wanesy Wave, transmitting that information either in Wi-Fi or in Bluetooth. Then that anchor is sending a LoRaWAN frame to a gateway. So here it's a Kerlink gateway, a Wanesy femtostel, but it can work with any LoRaWAN gateway or any public LoRaWAN network. Then that information is transmitted to a LoRaWAN network server and then to a business application server. In terms of hardware architecture, so I can show you back the product, the electronic card. Okay, the 2 or 3 main elements of that product is we have 2 microcontroller, one microcontroller which is the STM32 that makes the product work at the LoRaWAN product, and it's combined with a LoRaWAN transceiver at 612, sorry, 61 or 62 depending on the region, and the microcontroller ESP32 that include both technology, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So regarding that product, we're going just after to discuss with Laurent and Charles about two concrete and already live use case deployed. Okay, but just if you are interested in the product, you may know that you have several possibilities to purchase it, either as a standalone product if you want to integrate it within your own network, either private network or public network, or you can also purchase it with Kerlink infrastructure, Kerlink gateways, Kerlink network server, or it can also be part of a complete end-to-end solution as part of the in-store analytics solution with smart traffic, or as part of the universal contact tracing solution with microshare. Okay, and don't hesitate also if you're interested to contact your relative salespersons, notably Kerlink distributors, if you're interested. We already have made some discussion with them to present them those solutions, so they are already aware of it and capable to have discussion about it with you. I'll now let the floor to Laurent, who is going to speak about smart traffic and his in-store analytics solution.
Thank you very much, Guillaume, for the introduction, and hello to everyone. I maybe just need to see the presentation, Guillaume. I can't see it at the moment.
So you can just click on Vue du Public, and you should be able to see it.
Okay. Okay, I got it. Thank you. So thank you to everyone to take time today to get this presentation about new technologies to get some analytics about how people is behaving in the different places. So today I will talk to you about the in-store analytics, which is technology to track people inside a store and to better know how people behaves in a store. So first of all, a few words about Smart Traffic. So Smart Traffic, it's a pretty young company created in 2012 with 40 co-workers. We are working in all over the world today with two main presence in Europe, France, and in the US from Chicago. And last point, which is very important because we are talking about tracking, our solution is fully GDPR compliant, which is mean that we anonymize all the data collected through the device within 5 minutes before we send them to our server. So the question is today, why do we need to to get more analytics on your stores, and why it's very important today to better know how people behaves? And the answer is first of all to increase the traffic and then the revenue, because today retailers with physical presence, with physical stores, has to compete with the pure players, the web pure players, but also because today 80% of the revenue in the retail is still done in the physical stores. So we can't separate the both world, means the online and the offline, and we absolutely need to merge these two worlds. And to do that in the better way, we have to bring web analytics to the physical stores. So based on the solution and the device Guillaume mentioned before, which is a very easy device, you just have to plug and play. It's very user-friendly regarding the back office. I will show you later more about. It could work for all type of stores and for any size of stores. It's very customized, and I would say that it's a cheaper solution regarding the other technology you can find on the market, and for the most regarding the video, because today, if you want to learn more about how people is behaving in your store, you have really two main technologies, which are the Wi-Fi tracking and the video. So let's talk about the Wi-Fi tracking. So as I mentioned, the idea is to bring the web-like analytics to your physical space. This is mean that you will have the capacity to get the same analytics information than the one you can have in your website. So the visitor flow, the acquisition, the conversion rate, and so on and so on. And I will tell you now how it could work. So first, we have we are first very proud to have co-developed the device with Kerlink. So we use the Wi-Fi technology implementing in this device. This device is a plug-and-play device. You just have to plug in to an outlet power, so it's very easy. Before that, we have to define in where you have to install the device in your store in order to have the best accuracy as possible. The minimum requirement is to have 3 devices in order to do triangulation, but basically the average it's 1 device for 100 square meters. So above 300 square meters of surface, you have to implement 1 device for 100 square meters. So it's very easy. We set up this device in the store, and then we can start to collect the information. So basically, as Guillaume already mentioned, we plug the devices, then we track the Wi-Fi signal emitted by the smartphone, which is the Wi-Fi MAC address. The Wi-Fi MAC address is anonymized within 5 minutes inside the smart box. And then, thanks to the LoRa technology, the LoRa protocol, we can send all those information to our server and to bring you the best analysis and data viz thanks to our dashboard. So first we collect, second we have to analyze. We have developed a very smart algorithms which allow us to determine several metrics, several analytics, as the counting, the time spent, the average time spent somewhere, the dwell time, the information about how many visitors has visited multiple store, how many people went during a period, how many times they spent, etc., etc. So we collect the information, we analyze it thanks to our algorithms, and once we have do that, means we need a delay of a few hours, we can give you all this information through very smart dashboards. So this is the last part of the process, which is the visualization. So yes, the visualization. So we have developed a very smart data viz to define very useful dashboards. It's very easy to get the information. You just have to upload the floor map of your store, to define some areas you want to be focused, and then you select what kind of information you want to display, and it's done. The information are available in real time for the flow, and basically all the information about counting people, it's in real time. And some of other information needs to wait a few hours to be available, because we need to run our algorithm. But basically, keep in mind that it's a real-time information. So there is different type of dashboards. I have selected few of them in order to show you that it's very clear, very easy to use, and obviously I would be very happy to organize some demo later on for those who are interested by the solution. I think I can now maybe talk to you about, yes, one thing interesting in the previous screen. You can define the typical path. So this is mean that you can know which is the real path using by someone between a point A and a point B. So this could be very interesting to get information about how my merchandising is working, or if the space is currently well used by every my shoppers. Okay, so I would like to finish this short presentation with some use cases. But just before that, you should know that we can integrate in our dashboards some other information from kind of external information. For example, we can connect our solution to the cash register or the POS system of the store in order to integrate the information about the revenue, the average purchase, etc. And you can map this information with the traffic information. This could be very interesting. The point I wanted to underline right here is to say that our platform is first based on a device to track signal, but in the other side, it's a real data vis system through which you can integrate external information. It could be also water or energy information. I think, for example, for the malls, it could be interesting to mix the information of tracking with the information of energy consumption, and so on and so on. You can also create some engagement with our solution, means you can create some interaction with the smartphone if you install an SDK in the app. If you as a retailer already have an app, you can integrate our SDK and communicate with your shopper when there is in the store through our device and our solutions. So then few words about the use cases. So I have selected 3 or 4 different use cases. I will go quickly through each of them. So first of all, we worked for Shell, for the Shell company, which wanted to get more information on how about the shopper is behaving in the whole location, but also to better understand the real effectiveness of the marketing campaign in the different shelves, or sorry, in the different areas of the store, of the retail part. So that one first use case. Another one, which is 1871, one of the largest incubator in the US. So this is a very, very large location, I guess around 10,000 square meters. And because they have some preoccupation about how they have to organize the surface, they wanted to better understand how people behave inside the location in order to move some areas, to switch some areas between other, and so on and so on. Third case, which is Volkswagen. So this is a very interesting case because you understand that with this system you can count people, but one thing which is very interesting, it's to compare the traffic and the revenue in store with the marketing campaign you can launch. So the idea for Volkswagen is to compare, to analyze the effectiveness of their marketing campaign with the traffic in their different locations. And to finish this, I guess I finished the presentation. So I would say thank you very much, and I stay at your disposal for the question later.
Yes,
thank you.
Thanks a lot, Laurent. And don't, as mentioned already, don't hesitate to ask a question. I see already some of them, but we'll take them at the end of the presentation. Next one is for Charles Pommel, who is going to present the universal contact tracing.
Good afternoon. Guillaume, do I have slides, or do you? Okay.
I'll do it, yes.
You move forward for me?
Yes.
Great. So I'm going to be talking about the wave in two specific contexts that actually fit in very well with the solutions that we've been offering to the market around post-COVID. So just a tiny bit about the company. We also are 7 years old. We're based in the US and in England. We've been very active in the LoRa Alliance for the last few years. I was actually chair marketing for the last 3 years, and we've also spent a lot of time with the Microsoft ecosystem. We were in the accelerator for about a year, and that's been really a good way for market for us. Next one, please. So we are a solution integrator. We work with connectivity partners like Kerlink. We work with device makers from all sorts. So we're not a hardware manufacturer. We are really here to kind of take sensors and connectivity and wrap some software around it to make simpler solutions to go to market. Next one, please. So in the context of the current situation that we have, we've really developed sort of 5 areas that we focus on to help our clients get back to work and get back to the office and or to their facilities. And I'll talk a tiny bit about the others, but I'll focus primarily on the contact tracing, which is using the Kerlink Wave. I'll mention as well a little bit around our asset zoning solution, which also actually graduated from. So just a little bit about occupancy. Move to the next one. Can we move to the next one, please, Guillaume? We've gone straight to the third, but that's okay. So we do a lot of solutions. We've been very much around the idea of smart building for several years. So this is one of the many things that we've been offering. I'm not sure which one we're looking at now. Okay. So
yeah, we're universal contact tracing one. I don't know which one you wanted to show.
Yeah, that's fine. I was going to mention the other ones, but just so that aware, it's one of many things that we do. That's totally fine. So let's talk about contact tracing. So hopefully everyone has heard about this concept so far. The idea when you have an infection like the current coronavirus we're all suffering from is to help by looking in the mirror when someone is infected and try to figure out who else they might have been in contact with to actually inform those people that they should get a test and maybe do a deep clean of the areas where that infected person has worked to try and again eradicate and avoid too much spreading of the virus. So we are not medical device in any way. We are really all about giving data to companies and organizations who want to understand how their employees are collaborating, when they're spending time near to each other, and obviously use that data to hopefully minimize the impact of anyone getting infected in the workplace. We are very complementary to all of the smartphone kind of contact tracing apps that are out there. So we certainly don't think we're competing with those. We are very much designing this solution to be in complement and sort of very much where smartphones are just going to not be an option because maybe you're a manufacturing area, or maybe the people that you have in your space, like maybe a care home, wouldn't necessarily all have a smartphone, or maybe it's just more people, more poorer people that just can't afford a smartphone and don't want to turn on an app. So if we go to the next one, please. So yeah, as I said, hopefully, everyone that's heard of contact tracing at this stage, there's a lot of science evidence that if you can help people remember who they have been in contact with, you're going to have a chance to help limit the spread of viral infections. And the problem is, as humans, we're not very good with our memory. So trying to remember who we've been in contact with for a 2-week period is really hard. So the technology is really there to help people say, okay, we're going to help you monitor who you're spending time nearby, and that data will be available if and when someone is infected, to obviously share the tell them about the risk and invite them to get a testing. So if we move to the next one, please. Our contact tracing, actually, the solution came from the other wave-based solution that we had designed with Kerlink. So we've been very much working together for many quarters now with Kerlink, deploying a Bluetooth-based solution that is been used in many of our hospital clients, both in England and in the US. And the idea was really to help hospitals know where their wheelchairs and their beds, where they might have their heart rate monitors at any point in time. We would use something like this thing, a very small Bluetooth beacon that we can install on an asset, and that is basically an active tag. It's spending its time broadcasting its MAC address, and of course we then have a software to associate it to a physical asset. And then we use the we then use the Kerlink waves as a fixed anchor sitting on a wall, in a specific area that the hospital manager wants to survey, whether it's an entrance, whether it's a storeroom, whether it's corridors, and that allows us to basically, the wave is listening for all of the asset tags that are going by, recording that movement, or obviously no movement in some cases, and reporting that information back over to us through the LoRaWAN network. And then we have all visualizations and tools to help personnel basically find where something is, analyze how long certain assets are being used or not used, and kind of really improve both the productivity of people as well as make sure that the assets, you get the right number of them. So asset zoning was the basis that a global pharma company came to us and said, we want to buy the solution, but we don't want to track assets. We want to track people, and we actually want to track contacts between people. And we realized quite quickly that there was a great opportunity to change the solution a little bit, to be much closer to that need, and to basically fill that gap where something like a pharmaceutical manufacturing plant or a food production company, where you are not allowed to bring your phone inside of the facility. You have to, as you come into the building, there's a locker room, and you have to leave your phone. And that's very much been the story. And we made the front page of the Financial Times, which is a very famous business paper in England, and that's given us, an amazing credibility and a lot of enthusiasm for our solutions from very many very large organizations across the world. So next one, please. So the goal of the solution is really to have data to allow us to do two things. We want to ask of the data is, if I have Charles who's been infected with a virus, can I identify where has Charles been for the last 2 weeks within my building, so that I can do a very deep clean? And can the data tell me who has Charles spent some time in close proximity? And that definition will vary from various countries and companies, but who has been in contact with Charles, so that I can then notify them, tell them to get a test, and make sure that they stay healthy. That's really the goal of the organization. So unlike a lot of organizations that we do, it's not real time. It's really more about accumulating data into a database that our clients can utilize to effectively inform their staff. So when you hit contact tracing, as I mentioned, a lot of people think it's about apps and it's about smartphone, but obviously we're different. So number one, of course, we don't use any smartphones. We use some small wearable beacons, so whether there can be something like this that I have on my wrist, or a lot of our clients just put them on a lanyard with their the security tag. Very simple, very small, and easy for people to wear within the company. The second thing is we do not record any personal information whatsoever. So the only data that's transiting through the whole system is the MAC address of the devices that people are wearing. We have no knowledge or records of who's wearing what MAC address, and that makes sure that we're not liable for anything like GDPR or privacy laws in countries. It avoids a lot of issues with HR being worried about, the employers trying to track where where the staff is. That's really not the goal. The goal is really to protect people and to make them safe. The third piece is we're only about tracking in the workplace. So the solution is designed to stop working the moment you leave the factory, the moment you leave your employer. So your employer is not going to know what you're doing at the weekend or in your spare time based on that technology. That is really at all not the design. Of course, the benefit of using LoRaWAN is that we can get very quickly a big network to cover the whole facilities. So we can put obviously the Wave devices wherever they need to collect the information, and have a few gateways to allow them to talk back to the cloud. And then finally, it's about being able to do some location of people, again, with the intent to be able to clean where is needed. And we can do that without GPS because we also use Bluetooth location markers, basically iBeacons that we have information from. Next one, please. So without going into too much detail, this is probably a little bit more than you may want to look into, but essentially, the beacons that people are wearing are both broadcasting a MAC address, but also scanning around them for other devices that are nearby. And when two of them are in close proximity, they're going to record an event in their memory, and that event is configurable. Typically, most of our clients today are going with about 10 minutes. Some are going a little bit longer, 15 or even half an hour. That is very much configurable, something that the client will decide. But the idea is that it's not about, I just passed someone in a corridor. That's not a contact, sorry, that you want to record. It's really more about spending, a significant amount of time together. That's what you're really interested in. We're also recording location markers, again from a point of view of remembering that if you have someone who's got the virus, you don't want to have to close the whole factory. You want to be able to say, actually, I know this person was infected. I know where the area that they have been working in. That's the piece that I'm going to be, close off and do a deep clean. But at least I'm not worried about closing the entire thing. And that's really, really important. So we do that using, again, sort of simple iBeacon markers that the wristbands or the wearables are able to recognize. So from there, the waves are utilized to collect the data from the wearable. So there is a connection happening there, and then from the wave, obviously over the LoRaWAN network that we install. We then do all of the processing of the data, preparing, make it, secure it and make it available to the client, who typically will use something like, a Power BI or Tableau or SAS or whatever tool they would like. To be able to query the database that we've accumulated when there is an event. Again, this is a little bit unusual compared to all of our solutions that normally have an out-of-the-box dashboard. In that instance, there isn't really a dashboard because it's more about querying a database, finding events that are relevant to this client. Next one, please. So just a little bit about the devices. So you'll have seen me where this is the one that we're using for the time being. Really important for us is that we chose to use a device that has a replaceable battery rather than rechargeable, because again, from the feedback we've had from our early clients, and we had quite a few, the fact that if you put something that is rechargeable, you have a risk that even one person not charging their device makes the whole system a little bit useless. So by having batteries that we can monitor and that we know just work without having to charge them, we've got a much better chance of catching it. We've chosen to take a very small device that can be very easily worn, and that's also very important from a usability point of view, and we've had some really good feedback on that. I don't think I need to go too much into the specification of the Wave scanner. I mean, it's a great product. It's very easy to install. We've got some little tutorials already for our clients to make it, self-install as much as possible, and plug and play. And then we typically deploy it with the Kerlink connectivity infrastructure, so the Wanesy Waves. The Wanesy femtocells. We tend to use them with a SIM card so that the client doesn't even have to worry about plugging into their own Ethernet port or anything like that. It just makes life easy. We just ship the gateway with a SIM card inside, and all the client has to do is plug into the wall. And that's my contact if you need any help.
Thank you, Charles. So, as you have seen, we have presented you two different applications about our product. So I'm quite sure that for a lot of you already know a lot of things of outdoor geolocation, but the idea today was to present you two maybe different use cases: in-store analytics that is using the Wi-Fi from smartphones, and the universal contact tracing using the BLE technology tracking. So there are plenty of other potential and different use cases possible with the Wanesy Wave, but we were thinking that those two are quite different and significant today that you may be interested in. So we're now going to switch to questions. So don't hesitate to ask them in the small question box. So I already have some of them that I'm going to say and ask the relevant person to answer. So first one is for Laurent. What if a person enters a room with multiple Wi-Fi devices? Does it filter by MAC address? Does it count for one person or several persons?
This is a good question, thank you. But effectively, if someone is entering somewhere with multiple devices, we will count as many people as there are devices. So 2 devices is 2 people, and so on.
Does it filter by MAC address, I think?
Sorry?
The question was also, does it filter by MAC address? And the answer is yes.
Yes, it is.
How do you calculate the conversion rate?
So we install the devices in order to track people entering, passing through the store, then people entering in the store, and we compare those two information with the cash registers information, means the receipt. So just I have to precise that we also put a box inside the store next to the cash register in order to calculate with the timestamp to match a receipt with a timestamp collected by the box. Hope I am clear.
Yes, it's perfect. Another question still for you. How do you resolve the MAC at virtual aleatory? So I think the person is mentioning the randomization of the MAC address of the smartphones to know if a visitor repeats.
So there are two options. The first one we have developed in our algorithm. A new calculation method based on the clustering of the MAC address. I'm sorry, because I'm not the technical guy, and someone from my company will be better to answer to this question. But basically, we find a solution to cluster the MAC address and then to eliminate the randomized MAC address. So this is the first new feature of our algorithm. And what we can also do is to install an additional track counter people at the door. So without any additional cost, we install counter people counter, sorry, at the door. and we match this information coming from with the one we get from the device.
Okay, perfect. Another question: what is the exact role of Wi-Fi in this application?
The exact role of the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, the person was also mentioning that the smart traffic tracks customer from customer smartphones, but maybe it doesn't understand the role of the Wi-Fi in that tracking.
There is no role of the Wi-Fi. We catch the signal emitted by a smartphone when it is looking for a public Wi-Fi network. So we don't need to be connected to the Wi-Fi network of the customer, or sorry, of the retailer. And we don't need the Wi-Fi at all. We just catch the signal emitted by the smartphone.
Okay, a question then for Charles. Are you able to identify the duration between two people, duration of the handshake?
The handshake sounds like a little bit of a precise thing. I don't know that we're going to monitor handshakes per se.
No, it's the handshake. It may means more like the talking or the duration of speaking.
Yes, so we absolutely record the duration. So the information that we are processing is essentially the proximity respective of each other and the duration of each event. So both the proximity obviously between people and people and locations. So and of course we then bring that back to the cloud with the MAC address and the duration. Yeah.
Okay. The same person also asked if the Bluetooth bracelets are removable, or if they are like a festival and you need to cut it to remove it.
Well, you know, actually, that's a very good question. So the one we have right now that I'm wearing is removable, so I can show that. We have actually a project that's going to be more of a social, you know, a social for a government, and they're going to put some non-removable bracelets on people. It's again, it's for their health, and it's a good way. So we obviously we're flexible. Again, the good thing is the bracelet is not part of the solution. The key solution is really the actual Bluetooth beacon. And then we actually have interest from several governments for that sort of thing, for socially fragile people.
One question maybe for both of you, because it concerns the business model, and more precisely, what's the charging service? Is it a monthly fee, or is there another way for charging the service?
I would start, Charles, if you agree. Regarding the smart traffic solution, we charge a monthly subscription fee, and the fee is based on 3 criteria. The first one is the size of the store. The second one is the number of users who are allowed to use the solution, and criteria is how many source data are we using, which is mean because we have presented the tracking system, but this is one data source. But if we connect the cash register, for example, it will be a second data source. So then it could modify the monthly fee. And sorry, and there is a setup fee, an upfront fee at the beginning of the project in order to analyze the different floor maps and to create the floor map in the back office.
Okay, and then from our side, actually both for contact tracing and for asset zoning, that we both use the Wave, we have one single monthly fee that covers everything. So the idea is to make it super simple for the clients to buy. So universal contact tracing, we basically have a monthly fee per employee, and that includes the bands and the waves and the connectivity and the cloud and everything else. And then on the asset zoning, it's basically again a single monthly fee per wave, and a small addition per number of tags. So we try to keep it, you know, as easy as possible, and a pure OpEx model that works very well with the kind of clients that we deal with.
Okay, another question for Laurent. How many Wanesy Wave devices would system integrator need to properly cover a retail store of 200 square meter or 500 square meter?
So for 200 square meters, you will need 3 devices, so the minimum to do triangulation. And for 500 square meters, you will need 5 devices.
Another question on the way it works. What's the requirement needed on the phone? Is it just the Wi-Fi enabled? Sorry.
Yes.
Question for Charles. In the contact tracing, how does a person identify himself as a COVID positive in the system?
So that's not something that we would take care of. That is very much something that our clients would handle in their own HR systems and processes. As I said earlier, the solution is a little bit unusual for us because we are all about basically gathering and providing quality data that feeds back into the client's own infrastructure, and that piece around the declaration stuff that's very much handled by the client. In the same way that any joining up of personal information, knowing that Charles is wearing a device number 1234, that is also not something that we touch ever. That has to be done by the client themselves or the system integrator. And again, that's something that we see a lot of our reseller and partners are getting obviously some great opportunities for business by basically doing that last mile for the clients. But that's got to be specific to each client. It can't be a generic thing.
Question for Laurent. How do you geofence within a store? How accurate is it? And which kind of triangulation technique are you using in asset tracking?
In asset tracking or people?
Yeah, I think it's people tracking.
So for the beginning of the question, we set up the devices in the different places into the store in order to have the best coverage of the store and to avoid to also track outside signals, so we can modify the range of tracking. The question about the tracking, so what kind of technology we use, correct? So I don't know exactly the name of this technology, but basically we have the devices installed in the different places into the store. We can draw some circle, and we have the intersection of each circle, which is the line of triangulation of the people. And we also add a rule, which is to define how many devices how many devices have to see the shopper in order to be considered as a visit, in order once again to avoid how can I say that, to avoid tracking outside of the store or next to the store. For example, if we have a device installed next to a wall or close to a wall, and beyond this wall there is another store, so we can manage the triangulation and avoiding to track people of the other store with this kind of rule. So the people should be seen by 2 or 3 of the devices. I hope I am clear.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks a lot. Some quick questions for me. Does it only support LoRa devices? What about NB-IoT? So yes, the answer is so far it only supports LoRa. It's only a LoRa device. It doesn't support NB-IoT. And another question was if there will be a version with 3G, 4G for mobiles. As usually, most people will switch off the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth to save battery. So the answer so far is no, and it's working on Wi-Fi technology in order to collect the Wi-Fi probe request to be honest, I'm not sure how it would be feasible to collect those 3G, 4G probe requests. I don't know. In case of microchair, what's the typical power supply autonomy of a beacon?
So the beacons that we use that typically range between 1 and 3 years. Again, the good news is, they're only broadcasting, so they don't need to be spending a lot of power. And they're, again, a super standard technology. So we have a whole range of different shapes and sizes depending on where things need to be installed. So that makes life a lot easier.
Okay, perfect. For a Bluetooth-based solution, how many Wanesy Wave would be needed? Example, what's the range of a Wanesy Wave? That's a good question. Maybe Charles, you wanted to answer on the Bluetooth, maybe regarding the tests you already have made?
So one of the great things about Bluetooth, unlike LoRaWAN, is that it does not go through walls very well. So in terms of helping, especially in asset zoning, the fact that if I install a Wave in this office, this is Charles's office, it's devices that are in here will not get seen by the Wave that's next door most of the time. So that's the good thing. When you put a Wave, say, in a corridor, you're going to get, up to about 100 meters worth of range. Again, it depends on the power transmission of the beacon itself. So it's not so much the Wave than actually the beacon that you can tweak the power level to make sure that it gets in either very close or further away.
Thank you. Another question is, if I understand correctly, technically Wave is basically a radio device that can communicate with multiple technology, BLE, Wi-Fi, and LoRa. Is it correct? So it's a little bit like that, but I would say it's more like a LoRaWAN end device. It's communicating into LoRa, and it's collecting Wi-Fi and BLE information. So it communicates with objects into BLE and Wi-Fi technology, but the output, the information it sends out, it's a LoRaWAN message. Does Wave have internal battery or line powered? How long does Wave battery last? So it's line powered, so you have to know that we're working on an autonomous version, but today the Wave is wired because we wanted to have a device that can run either on Wi-Fi and BLE. Wi-Fi is a very, very energy consumption technology, so we had to put a wired device if we wanted to use the Wi-Fi technology. But we're working on an autonomous version of the product that may only be BLE. There is an internal battery if there is a battery line powered outage. I don't know exactly for how long the battery lasts. I would say a few hours, most probably, but it's only in case of a power outage. Regarding the availability of the device, so the device is already certified for 868 and 915 region, and we are currently working on the 923 region that should arrive by the end of the year. For a Bluetooth-based solution, how many Wanesy Wave would we need, and what is the range? Oh, okay, so I already answered the range. And so generally, Charles, if you're deploying the solution into a building, how many Wanesy Wave do you need for several?
So the idea is really to have one Wave for every zone that the client wants to monitor. So as a couple of examples, we've done mid-sized hospitals where we put about 30. And we're just in the process of deploying a very large general hospital where we're going to put about between 60 and 80. So again, it very much depends on the number of spaces where you'd like to have the information. It's pretty straightforward to put some more anyway. So that's the other benefit of using the LoRaWAN side. It's literally if the client says, "Oh, I've put 50, but I wanted to have another 10," you can easily add them, and there's no need to add more, connectivity or anything like that. We can get them all very quickly self-installed by the client.
Another question for you: does the beacons only are discussing with Bluetooth, and do they have some sensors like temperature?
No, we went with just a very simple Bluetooth contact tracing solution for multiple reasons. The first one is battery life. We want to make sure that the devices are working for contact tracing for as long as possible, and we were actually working on optimizing that using the accelerometer. The other thing is we are not trying to be a medical device, and the second you start introducing temperature, you fall into the risk of, from both a perception but also from a liability point of view, potentially being seen as something that is going to try and save people's lives. And the technologies we do are very reliable for what they do, but they are not, a guaranteed service delivery that would be good enough for things like heart rate or temperature or something like that. That's when you really need to start looking at things like, cellular or other technologies, because the quality of service of LoRaWAN is not designed for things that are life-saving. It's very good for things that just want a long battery life and easy connection. It's, we very much want to stay away from things that, if the device was not working and someone died, you don't want to be in the line of fire.
Thank you. Technical question. So what's the technology used? Is it angle of arrival for triangulation? Is it angle of arrival, RSSI, TOA? So today, mostly the technology used is the RSSI, but also currently working on the angle of arrival, trying to improve the solution. I think we may take only one or more two questions before ending the session, because it's already 1 hour long. For COVID use case, what is the rates of beaconing, as it pretty much decides the battery?
So most of our clients are going with a 2 meter or 6 foot if you're in the imperial system. So that's the range that we go for, and we actually decide to make the power transmission of the device to be that low as well, to basically enable that. And yes, obviously, if we start to to make it broader, or if we want to record more data, that would have an impact on the battery life. In the same way that the scanning frequency has a big impact. What costs the most battery of these things is not so much the broadcasting; it's really the scanning around them and recording the data. So we have to find the right balance.
Questions for Laurent. Can the system work in a high-rise building where there are a multi-level of retail?
Yes, it works, and it's quite the same technique I described before when I talked about how to eliminate interferences from another store right behind or next to the store we are tracking. So we implement different devices, several devices in different floors, and then because we adjust some parameters of the algorithm, we can clusterize the data collected per floors. So as I mentioned before, we try to consider that it is a visit because it has been seen by 1, 2, or 3 devices or more devices, and we identified the devices in question.
Perfect. And last question is for you, Charles, which is in fact 3 questions the same, but it's regarding proximity accuracy. If the proximity event is a mix between proximity and time, does the accuracy of the solution enough to detect 2 or 3 meters of proximity between 2 devices? What is the possibility of false positive? And what about if there is a wall in the middle of 2 people? Does that cause a proximity event?
So,
how many maximum devices can we reach? Okay.
So you have lots of questions into one.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. So let me try and see if I can cover all of them. false positives will happen. There's no doubt about it. We made the decision to use Bluetooth as Guillaume was showing earlier. We felt Bluetooth was the best compromise between the cost, the accuracy, and the battery power level. There's obviously contact tracing solutions out there that use ultra wideband, which is much more precise. The problem with UWB right now is the battery is much harder. So you suddenly have a bigger device, or you have to charge it all the time, and it's a lot more expensive to buy in the first place. And so we tried to use something that was, good enough. And yes, we appreciate that there will be, a certain level of accuracy. So we certainly don't guarantee that it's exactly 2 meters. It's a range, and it's obviously based on RSSI. What we think makes it more likely that we are right is that it's not about one single event. It's not about just, oh, Laurent and Charles were next to each other for once within 10 meters. It's a continued number of events that has in the same range of RSSI that we can consider a real proximity event. So that's why the 10 or 15-minute rule is really important, because we basically every single minute, for example, we're going to record the fact that those two devices were near to each other. That's a good enough to give us a reasonable level of confidence. But yeah, I'm certainly not going to stand here and guarantee that it's exactly 2 meters, because that would be silly. When it comes to walls and interferences, again, that depends on the structure of the wall. So certain walls, as I mentioned earlier, are very good at stopping the signal of Bluetooth. But some partitions, if you just got a bit of glass, the signal may go through. So again, you may end up with false positive. Remembering that the solution is really about helping people remember who they were next to and where they were. It's not trying to be absolutely 100% precise, because if you want to go to the super level of precision, you're gonna spend 3 to 5 times more than our solution. But the fact that I can, if I am infected and someone shows me a list of, Charles, do you remember spending time with Guillaume and Laurent on a Thursday afternoon? Say, yeah, I remember, but actually, I know they were on the other side of the fence. So it helps my memory, and it's obviously more of a conversation. It's by no means, an exact science.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. The answer was as long as the question. So I think we're going to end the session now. So thanks again, everybody, for joining. We hope you enjoy the session. There is a little survey at the end of the webinar when you're going to exit. And in any way, we'll put the webinar on our Kerlink YouTube channel. So if you want to review it or share it to anybody, feel free. And if there is any unanswered question, don't hesitate to ask it to your sales salesperson, and you will then transfer it to the relative person. Thanks again, and have a great day or great night, depending where you are in the world. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.